Long before the great empires of Rome or Persia took shape, a sophisticated civilization flourished in the Indian subcontinent. The Indus Valley Civilization, with cities like Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, was a marvel of ancient urban planning. These metropolises were designed with astonishing precision, featuring grid-like street patterns, advanced sanitation systems with covered drains, and public baths. Their residents developed standardized weights and measures, a testament to a highly organized society built on trade and order. This was not a primitive culture, but one of the world's first great urban societies, a true cradle of civilization that established complex trade networks reaching as far as Mesopotamia. These early people were pioneers in technology and commerce. They were skilled metallurgists, crafting intricate tools and beautiful ornaments from copper and bronze. Their trade was extensive, with their distinctive seals found thousands of miles away, evidence of a bustling economic exchange that connected distant cultures. The sheer scale and uniformity of their cities suggest a powerful, centralized authority that governed a vast territory. The legacy of the Indus Valley is not one of conquest, but of ingenuity and peaceful commerce, setting a precedent for the subcontinent's future as a global hub of trade and ideas, a history we are only now beginning to fully appreciate. Centuries later, the subcontinent witnessed the rise of its first great pan-Indian empire under the Mauryan dynasty. Emperor Ashoka, after the brutal Kalinga War, underwent a profound transformation, embracing Buddhism and its principles of non-violence. Instead of expanding his empire through military force, he pursued a policy of conquest by dharma, or righteous conduct. He dispatched Buddhist missionaries across Asia, from Sri Lanka to the Middle East, spreading Indian philosophy, ethics, and culture far beyond its borders. His reign was a remarkable experiment in benevolent governance, establishing a vast network of roads, hospitals, and rest houses for travelers and animals alike. Under the Mauryans, India also became a powerhouse of sophisticated financial systems. It is fascinating to note that Buddhist monasteries, often seen purely as spiritual centers, were permitted to act as bankers and financiers, helping to fuel a vibrant economy. This period saw the development of advanced administrative structures and economic policies that managed a vast and diverse empire. Ashoka's edicts, carved on pillars and rocks throughout his domain, communicated his vision of a just and compassionate society. He unified most of South Asia not just politically, but through a shared cultural and ethical framework that would influence the continent for generations to come. The era of the Gupta Empire is rightly called India's Golden Age, a period of unparalleled intellectual and artistic flowering. It was during this time that Indian thinkers made monumental contributions to mathematics and science that would fundamentally change the world. The concept of zero, or shunya, was developed, a revolutionary idea that unlocked the potential for complex calculations and abstract thought. Alongside it, the decimal system was perfected, creating a system of numerals that was far more efficient than the cumbersome Roman system. These innovations were not confined to India, they traveled west, seeding the intellectual revolutions in the Islamic world, and later, the European Renaissance. Great minds like the astronomer Aryabhata flourished under Gupta patronage. He accurately calculated the length of the solar year, explained lunar and solar eclipses, and proposed that the Earth was a sphere that rotated on its own axis, a millennium before Copernicus. Another brilliant mathematician, Brahmagupta, established foundational rules for arithmetic involving zero and negative numbers. These were not just theoretical exercises. They had practical applications in astronomy, architecture, and commerce. This scientific spirit permeated society, fostering a culture of inquiry and discovery that made India the world's leading center for knowledge and innovation. This intellectual dynamism was institutionalized in great centers of learning like Nalanda University. More than just a university, Nalanda was a beacon of knowledge for the entire known world, attracting thousands of scholars and students from as far away as China, Korea, and Tibet. Its legendary library, known as the Dharma Ganja, or Treasury of Truth, was said to house hundreds of thousands of manuscripts, making it the largest repository of knowledge in the world at the time. Scholars like the Chinese pilgrim Xuanzang spent years at Nalanda, studying logic, grammar, medicine, and philosophy, before carrying these profound Indian ideas back to their homelands. The Gupta period's influence was therefore not spread by the sword, but by the power of its ideas and the brilliance of its scholars. The knowledge nurtured in its universities and debated in its courts became a major cultural export. Indian medical practices, detailed in texts like the Sushruta Samhita, which described complex surgical procedures, were studied and adopted abroad. The period solidified India's role as a global educator, a source from which other civilizations drew inspiration. This soft power, built on intellectual achievement and cultural confidence, defined India's place in the world for centuries. While northern empires often capture the historical imagination, the southern kingdoms of the Cholas, Pandyas, and Cheras were the true masters of the Indian Ocean. Forgetting the overemphasized Silk Road, it was the sea lanes that were the real arteries of global trade, and Indian sailors dominated them. Harnessing the predictable monsoon winds, their ships sailed to the coasts of East Africa, the Arabian Peninsula, and most significantly, Southeast Asia. Ports like Muziris on the Malabar coast became bustling cosmopolitan hubs, where merchants from Rome, Egypt, and China gathered to trade. This maritime prowess made the southern kingdoms fabulously wealthy and internationally connected. The scale of this trade was immense. Rome, for instance, developed an insatiable appetite for Indian pepper, textiles, pearls, and spices. The Roman historian Pliny the Elder lamented how India was the sink of the world's most precious metals, as vast quantities of Roman gold and silver flowed eastward to pay for these luxury goods. It's been estimated that customs duties from this trade once accounted for a third of the Roman Empire's entire revenue. This wasn't just trade, it was a relationship that shaped economies and cultures across continents, with Indian goods becoming symbols of status and luxury in the heart of the Roman world. The southern empires, particularly the Cholas, did not just trade, they projected power across the seas. The Chola dynasty, at its height, possessed one of the most formidable navies in the world. This fleet was not merely for protecting trade routes, but was capable of launching major expeditions, famously intervening in the affairs of the Srivijaya Empire in modern-day Indonesia. This military capacity ensured Indian dominance over the Bay of Bengal, turning it into a Chola lake. They demonstrated that Indian power could be maritime and expeditionary, a fact often overlooked in histories focused on land-based empires. This maritime dominance was accompanied by a vast wave of cultural diffusion. The Pallava dynasty's Brahmi script became the mother script for most of Southeast Asia, forming the basis for writing systems in Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, and Burma. Sanskrit became the language of the elite courts across the region. The names of cities like Ayutthaya in Thailand, from Ayodhya, and the state religion of Indonesia's airline Garuda are living testaments to this influence. Grand temple complexes like Angkor Wat in Cambodia and Borobudur in Java were built on Indian architectural and religious principles, creating a vast Indosphere of shared culture that was shaped by influence, not colonization. The arrival of the Mughals in the 16th century marked another peak in India's global standing. The Mughal Empire was not a declining power on the eve of colonization. It was a global economic and military juggernaut. In the 17th century, under emperors like Shah Jahan, Mughal India was the world's manufacturing workshop, responsible for an astonishing 1/4 of the global GDP. This economic might was built on the superior quality of its products, especially textiles. From fine muslins to colorful calicos, Indian fabrics were coveted across the world. From England to Japan, making cities like Surat, Agra, and Dhaka the epicenters of global commerce. This economic strength was supported by immense military power. The Mughals commanded vast professional standing armies equipped with advanced artillery and sophisticated siege weaponry. They were master builders, and their architectural achievements, like the sublime Taj Mahal or the imposing Red Fort, were not just artistic wonders, but powerful statements of imperial wealth and technological prowess. These structures required incredible logistical coordination, advanced engineering, and an economy strong enough to fund such monumental undertakings. The Mughal state was a well-oiled machine, efficient in its tax collection and administration, projecting an image of unparalleled power and splendor. India's pre-colonial contributions were not limited to wealth and warfare. Its intellectual exports continued to shape the world. Indian accounting methods and commercial techniques, refined over centuries of trade, were incredibly advanced. Some historians argue that these systems, carried along trade routes, helped seed the commercial revolution that financed the European Renaissance. Furthermore, Indian metallurgy, particularly the production of high-quality wood steel, was legendary. This steel was forged into the famed Damascus blades of the Middle East, renowned for their sharpness and strength, another example of Indian technology being a critical component in a global supply chain. As we look back on this glorious past, it becomes clear that before colonization, India was never a peripheral player on the world stage. It was, as I've argued, one of the great engines of civilization. Its influence was spread not through brutal conquest, but through the irresistible appeal of its culture, the brilliance of its innovations, and the quality of its goods. For millennia, India was a world leader, economically prosperous, scientifically advanced, and culturally magnificent. Understanding this powerful history is essential, not for nostalgia, but to recognize the deep-rooted strengths that have long defined this incredible civilization.